Hi everyone, my name is Charlene and I'll be your host for today. We would like to thank you for being able to watch our live debate showcase, and as of now, the debaters have already started preparations. We'll just have to wait a little bit more to hear their speeches. In the meantime, I am proud to mention that this year, we'll be working together with Wahana BC Indonesia to help their cause. Any donations made through our NH Bank account will be highly appreciated. We can't possibly thank you enough. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you today our adjudicator for today, Jasmine Purnell.
Hi everyone, my name's Jasmine and I'll be your adjudicator for today's debate showcase. I've been in public speaking for about 3 years now, starting the World Scholars Cup, Model United Nations, and Asian Parliamentary Debates since 2018. I first joined these competitions to have a better insight of the world around me, but ever since I've started participating in many local and even international events, I've managed to learn new things, make new friends, and get some awards along the way. Debate Debate and public speaking has taught me how to think critically and how to think on my feet, and it's also taught me how to express my ideas with confidence and to be open to new ideas. And I really hope that this will be the spirit that all the debaters would embody today. So next, I'd like to introduce our teams. So on the affirmative team, we have Jadriana Aleta Sutrisno, Marilyn Hartono, and Rafi Rahman Yadieka. Next team, we have opposition, which is Jessie Felicia Xiao, Nathaniel Darren Lim, and Ken Hananto Seto. Next up, we have our motion, which reads that elections worldwide should be postponed due to the pandemic. This is a really timely motion for two main reasons. First, we will be discussing on whether a large-scale event is important enough to warrant it not being restricted by social distancing measures or cancellations. And it's also a very timely topic because a lot of countries are undergoing elections or will undergo elections in the near future, like the USA. And even Indonesia, our regional elections are still going on. So I'm really excited to see what these two teams would bring to the table. And I'm really excited to see what they have in store for today's debate.
With that, the formal debate will start.
The House will now come to order. Firstly, the adjudicator would like to call on the first speaker of the affirmative side. You have 4 minutes to make your speech. The adjudicator will knock her gavel once at 3 minutes and twice when you're out of time. With that, you may finish your last sentence. You may unmute yourself and you may begin.
Good afternoon. I'm the first speaker of the affirmative team. My name is Marilyn Hartono, and today I will be debating on the motion that elections worldwide should be postponed during the pandemic, due to the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the biggest issues in the year of 2020 for everyone around the world, from medical professionals to small businesses. It has also affected the world of politics, especially elections. In this debate, we will be defining postponed as until the number of cases have died down nationally. The job of a government is to prioritize the safety and well-being of its citizens. An ideal government has to be held accountable for the welfare of its people. Accountability is the degree to which local governments have to explain or justify what they have done or failed to do. If the government decides to hold elections in real life, they are putting the lives of these voters at risk. They could be possibly infected and bring home the virus to their loved ones or spread it to strangers, unaware that they are even doing so. This would mean that the number of cases would rise up again, causing citizens to lose confidence in the government. Therefore, the degree to which a government is able to carry out its functions at any level can often determine a country's ability to sustain democratic reforms and provide for the well-being of its citizens. We can take the example of New Zealand, a country that has managed to contain the virus impressively and was one of the first countries to declare itself free of the virus. When New Zealand's second wave started, which was in a lot of cases, they still decided to postpone elections until cases returned back to zero for the safety of its citizens, because a government's first priority should be to take care of their citizens. The opposition may argue that elections can simply be conducted through other means, such as mail ballots, the system that the US is adopting to conduct their presidential election this year. However, we would like to argue that mail delivery has disparate effects on certain populations. This limits the representation of voters, which is another key democratic principle. Let us take the example of the US election. Mail delivery is not uniform across the country. Native Americans, for example, may have difficulty with all mail elections. Many do not have street addresses and their PO boxes may be shared. Literacy can also be an issue for some voters as well. Election materials are often written at a college level. In conclusion, postponing elections would be the best choice to ensure the safety of voters as well as to increase representation and therefore participation. And this is why I believe that the motion should stand. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marilyn. Speakers will now have 1 minute to prepare their rebuttals and responses, and that 1 minute begins now. All right, your debaters, your 1 minute preparation time has elapsed. Now, the adjudicator would like to invite the first speaker of the opposition to please make their speech. Again, you have a maximum of 4 minutes. The adjudicator will knock her gavel once at 3 minutes and twice when you're out of time, and you must finish your last sentence as a result. You may unmute yourself and you may begin.
Speaker, two things I'd like to note before I begin my speech. First, I will outline the burdens for both teams to fulfill in order to win this debate. In this debate, we will establish the principles of egalitarianism as the criteria to win this debate. That is to say that the model that benefits the most stakeholders should emerge triumphantly. On the negative team, we will argue that the continuation of the status quo in which global elections should continue, regardless of the COVID-19 pandemic, should stand. The affirmative team must not only prove that their alternative model of postponing elections has more benefits than its disadvantages in comparison with the status quo, but they also must prove that the urgency merits the justification of a complete overhaul of the global status quo. Secondly, I would like to present our team's rebuttals to the arguments made by the first speaker of the affirmative team. They've argued that this is necessary for the sake of public health. 3 layers of rebuttals against that. Firstly, on the count of their model. Their model operates under the assumption that all forms of election requires in-person attendance. This is not true, as the status quo in democratic societies present alternatives to this, which includes mail-in voting. Jessica Pierce-Rotondi, in her article for History.com, notes that absentee ballots have been used in the United States since the 1800s. Now, the affirmative team has mentioned the possibility of election fraud, and we acknowledge that it does exist in limited measures and can exist. However, we argue that number one, fraud exists in regular elections anyway, and secondly, even if such elections do occur because of mail-in ballot fraud, we argue that the implications of mail-in fraud has a very limited scope and cannot actually impact the majority opinion on elections. In cases of poor democratic societies that does not have such stipulations, we will argue that traditional in-person voting is still necessary, as we will argue that the health risk caused by COVID-19 will still exist regardless of voting or not. This is because in most societies that have not imposed strict lockdowns, such as Sweden, in-person activities continue, and elections will not change that. The affirmative team can argue that the conditions of in-person voting may not adhere to social distancing norms, and we can see that that might be the case. However, we'll argue that number one, the risk of getting COVID-19 are already prevalent anyways, and secondly, that the benefits of maintaining the status quo far outweighs their model. I'll elaborate on this later on. Moving on to our team's contentions, we will argue that the status quo in which elections occur regularly in the average democratic country should continue despite the pandemic. Three things I'd like to note. Firstly, the model itself, the affirmative team's model is very ambiguous in a sense that they said elections should continue when COVID-19 cases die down. This is a very, very abstract criteria, and this can be defined by each government differently. What we worry about is the slippery slope for this, because what we are worried about is that leaders with authoritarian tendencies will use this as an advantage to hold on to power. We have seen this in the case of Donald Trump in the United States of America, where he flirted with the idea of postponing elections until COVID-19 cases has died down. And we believe that this will be misused, and this will legitimize people staying on to power longer than they should. Now, the affirmative team operates under the mechanism of putting these governments accountable. While we agree with this, we believe that our model presents a better solution than theirs, because when we allow voting to continue despite the COVID-19 pandemic, we're allowing the people to voice their opinions that they think that the government is not doing enough to do COVID-19 restrictions in their policies, and they want change. If they believe so, in that case, the government should be allowed to be changed in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, because it is the prerogative of the people to choose their governments in democratic society, and this pandemic will be exploited by people who will hold on to power. Thank you.
Apologies. All right, thank you. Next, teams have 1 minute to prepare, and now 1 minute begins now. I'd like to call on the second speaker of the affirmative to, I would like to call on the second speaker of the affirmative to begin their speech. You have 4 minutes. Again, the adjudicator will knock her gavel once at 3 minutes and twice when you're out of time. So with that, you may begin your speech. You may unmute yourself as well.
All right, thank you, adjudicator. Good afternoon, honorable adjudicator and the honorable members of the opposition. My name is Rafi Rahman Yadiaka, and today I'll be representing as the second speaker for the affirmative house, strongly believing in the stance that elections as a whole should be postponed worldwide due to the simple fact that the COVID-19 pandemic still rages on today and still exists. First of all, I would like to rebut a few points that the opposition has mentioned. First of all, the opposition mentioned that the risks of catching the virus are still prevalent in society, whether or not one does voting or not, as people are already going out even in the middle of this pandemic. The affirmative team would like to argue that although yes, risks are still present, which is exactly why we should wait until risks are reduced to finally conduct these in-person elections. It must also be noted that not all countries in the world have some sort of mechanism that could enable the people to conduct voting through other means, such as mail-in voting or online voting. Not all countries, not especially LEDCs, simply don't have such measures to conduct voting, and they will need to resort to in-person voting, which is why this doesn't. Which is why I also believe that essentially the government has the duty to protect the citizens from catching this pandemic. And with that being said, any risks should be minimized of catching the virus. Therefore the relevance of postponing elections. With that being said, I would like now to move on to my arguments. First of all, other methods of voting, alternative methods, namely mail voting and online voting, can be susceptible to threat. For example, mail-in voting, which has received some criticism from the United States of America's President Donald Trump, has seen argues that it's susceptible to fraud or other malicious means, and this is proven right. As not long ago in New Jersey, 4 people were caught doing some form of voter fraud through mail-in voting, as not all votes were counted and all votes were in some way invalidated. Furthermore, online voting also poses a risk. One may argue that since we already do a lot of things through online means, that we should also do voting online. Some things that we do online right now include online banking, online shopping, etc. But the fact that these means of doing things online are also susceptible to certain things such as malicious hacking, fraud, and pretty much have no reliable mechanism also just shows that online voting can also be susceptible to these threats. Furthermore, it is also the duty of the government to ensure that everyone's opinions is taken into account, whether they are an indigenous, whether they're a minority, or whether they are the majority in a certain country. For instance, in the case of Hong Kong, one of the reasons that they decided to postpone the elections is because that some of their voters, some of their nationals are abroad in other countries, unable to go home to conduct some form of physical election or something else. With that being said, having nationals in other countries not be present to vote simply shows that the public opinion is simply not represented enough. Although the opposition may argue that, as long as the majority is present, then, we should continue with the vote. But the thing is, we need to represent the opinion of every people, that every single vote matters in this case. With that being said, the affirmative team would like to wrap up its arguments, mainly that online voting and mail-in voting can be susceptible to certain threats from fraudulent entries, malicious hacking in online means, and also fraud. Furthermore, also the affirmative team would also like to again reiterate its argument that that not all voters may be present in a country during the electoral process. Therefore, one should wait for the coronavirus pandemic to die down in their respective countries or their respective countries in which the governments are involved before restarting voting procedures once again. Furthermore, it is also again the duty of the government to protect the citizens of a country from intercepting this virus. Hence, the reason why most elections should in fact be postponed to a later date where the coronavirus pandemic has died down in a certain country. With that being said, I would like to end my speech and thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you for your speech. Now teams have 1 minute to prepare between speakers, and that 1 minute begins now. Next, I would like to call on the second speaker of the opposition to please make their speech. Like the rest, you have 4 minutes. The judge will knock her gavel once at 3 minutes and twice when you are out of time, and with that, you must finish your last statement. You may unmute yourself and you may begin.
Good morning, honorable judges, fellow debaters, and respected opposition. My name is Darren, and I'm the second speaker of the negative team debating on the motion that elections worldwide should be postponed due to the pandemic. Before I move on to my points, I would like to rebut the second speaker of the affirmative team. The second speaker stated that the second speaker talks about the elections worldwide, how New Zealand are better at handling the pandemic than others. However, the motion clearly talks about the elections worldwide. But the fact that some societies have emerged better than some countries, even when in-person voting is unavoidable, health risks are already existent anyway, and that the benefits of continuing voting allows more people to be represented in making their government accountable in regards to their COVID-19 response. The opposite team also said that it is the government rights to protect the people from pandemics such as the coronavirus. However, but as we can clearly see, not every government is doing it effectively. For example, the United States, it has a population of 300 million compared to around 8 billion worldwide. However, the United States accounts for one-fifth of the death due to coronavirus. This clearly shows that the government is not working effectively and that the new administration should be elected. So moving on to my first point. My first point is that election doesn't need to happen physically anymore. We are currently living in the 20th century. 90% of all people worldwide are covered by at least a basic data plan as of May 2019, according to worldbank.org. There should be no need to postpone the elections because of a pandemic. Most places worldwide already have the provision of postal voting and or remote electronic voting. For example, to allow citizens to vote from home. An example is South Korea, which is currently putting its emergency mechanism in place so that citizens can vote from hospitals and home ahead of the April 2020 elections. The first speaker of the opposite team also said that voting may increase the chance of obtaining the virus. However, there are no health risks involved in remote voting. Voters can not only stay at home, but can also practice social distancing. We cannot spread the virus online. Furthermore, as long as health regulations are followed, such as social distancing or wearing masks, the chance to spread the virus is very low. The second speaker of the opposite team also said that online voting may be fraudulent. However, the fact is that there's always a chance for the elections to be hacked, whether it is online voting, whether it's physical vote election. It's inevitable. An example is the 2016 US elections where Russia was able to hack the US systems during the voting. My second point is that we don't actually know when the pandemic will be over. Whether it's next year, whether it's next 2 years, we don't know. How long can the government postpone the elections? If the pandemic lasts for 2 years, this doesn't mean that the government has the right to postpone the election for 2 years, especially in places where there have been recent protests, like in the US. Furthermore, it is not a question if a pandemic will happen. It is a question when the pandemic will happen. Research suggests that more pandemic and epidemics may happen in the future due to causes such as global warming. We must adapt to a life during these times of pandemic, and postponing something is not a good way to start adapting.
All
In
right.
conclusion, me and my team believe that election worldwide should not be postponed due to the pandemic.
All right. Thank you. Debaters, your 1 minute preparation time starts now. your 1 minute preparation time is elapsed. We have the final speaker for the affirmative. Again, like your other teammates, you have 4 minutes to make your speech. The judge will knock her gavel once at 3 minutes and twice when you're out of time. And with that, please finish your last sentence. If you cannot hear the gavel, please let the judge know. And you may unmute yourself and you may begin.
Good afternoon, adjudicators, fellow teammates on the opposition. My name is JD and I'm the third speaker of the affirmative team. And today I'll be debating on the motion that elections worldwide should be postponed due to the pandemic. I would also like to offer our team's conclusion, further explain it, and why we believe this way. I will now move on to my rebuttals. For example, online and mail voting. This way of electing someone can possibly be susceptible to fraud. Online voting can lead to forms of malicious hacking. And that not all voters are present in their country during the time of election, and that elections are and can be a key element of democracy. Hence, a flawed electoral process is harmful to the democratic process, and that voting online also poses challenges of secrecy and accessibility. We never define postponed as until the pandemic ends, and we only say that it should be postponed until cases have reduced and daily rising cases have significantly reduced. Now I shall move on to my conclusion. My first speaker had stated that other means of voting and elections might make the number of cases of COVID-19 rise once again and might cause fraud. She had also stated that the job of a government is to prioritize the safety and well-being of citizens, which is the main job of the government. My second speaker had stated that it should be postponed because not all countries are able to have a guaranteed safe way of having an election, which is usually done physically. And I strongly agree to this statement. As a lot of countries are not doing very well during this pandemic, it will be hard to elect globally without the risk of spreading the virus even more. My second speaker had also stated that alternative methods of voting can be dangerous, such as mail and online voting, and that voters may not be able to attend the online elections, and that voters may not be present during the election, maybe abroad, hence not being able to attend the elections, which may cause many problems, like possibly not having enough voters and an uneven amount of votes. The government should be able to guarantee the safety of their people and citizens. And by not postponing the vote, again, this might cause the COVID-19 pandemic to worsen, and that countries should wait for the current situation to become better and have a safer surrounding before making major elections that may go wrong or cause problems. In conclusion, there's all of the reasons why we, the affirmative team, strongly believe to this motion and believe that this motion should stand. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So teams, you have your final minute to prepare and before we call the final speaker, and that 1 minute begins now. Your final minute for preparation is elapsed. We're gonna welcome the final speaker of the debate. Just like the other 5 speakers before you, you will have 4 minutes to make your speech. The judge will knock her gavel once at 3 minutes and twice when you are out of time. And with that, you must finish your last sentence. You may unmute yourself and you may begin.
Good afternoon, honorable adjudicator, fellow debaters, and audience. My name is Jessie, and I'm standing here as the final speaker of this debate, arguing against the motion that elections worldwide should be postponed due to the pandemic. First of all, I would like to point out the loopholes in the affirmative team's points and how they have failed to address several major factors regarding the aspects of this motion. I will now be presenting my rebuttals. The first speaker had mentioned that families might bring home the virus. However, the negative team has already rebutted this point, saying that these elections might be held online or through mail. And the affirmative team has also argued that there's a big chance of fraud due to mail and online elections. However, the negative team tends to argue that even fraud without having to vote through mail or online is inevitable. Fraud in election happens everywhere. It is inevitable. Also, in the worst case scenario where election fraud will happen because of either mail or online voting, the negative team will argue that this is a necessary evil, as the alternative of postponing elections provides an incentive for the government to be lenient on COVID-19 to ensure that cases stay high in order to stay in power. Not only that, there is again no clear definition on the criteria of COVID-19 cases going down. The affirmative team's only arguments seem to be revolving all about health risk and fraud. The negative team would like to point out that both factors are already existent and they can be managed. Also, these two factors allows the government to be held accountable. Therefore, the people will have the right to vote them out if they are not doing a good job in maintaining the situation. Assuming that the government is extremely good in handling COVID-19, is it not logical to assume that in-person voting would be safer? The second speaker of the affirmative team has mentioned that public opinion should be taken into account, and he has brought up countries such as Hong Kong postponing vote elections due to many of their citizens stuck abroad. However, I would like to shed light on how he has failed to acknowledge the fact that despite the pandemic, many of a country's citizens may be stuck abroad. Now, I would like to move on with the summary. The negative team has proposed a model based on egalitarianism, which means that it benefits the most stakeholders. The negative team argues that the postponing of an election worldwide provides an incentive for leaders to continue to stay in power. Also, the negative team would also like to bring to light that alternative forms of voting, fraud is limited, and the argument of voting fraud used by the Trump administration to try and postpone the election is a form of fraud itself. Fraud is an untrue claim, and it legitimizes governments to stay in power. Moreover, the negative team would also like to bring up the fact that the affirmative team did not recognize the true definition of the motion, in which the motion states that elections should be cancelled worldwide. The affirmative team has failed to acknowledge that many countries, such as they have mentioned themselves, whose COVID-19 cases have already started to die down, such as New Zealand, Hong Kong, Japan, Taiwan, etc. It is only logical to assume that the affirmative team is saying that these elections should be postponed despite the case of COVID-19 cases going down, and therefore this is why the negative team strongly believes that this motion should fall. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations to both teams. You have finally finished the debate. And before announcing the winning house, we'd like to ask you to fill in the survey and please give us an honest feedback. Don't hesitate to comment about something you don't like or something you'd like for us to improve. We would really appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
So I've already made my decision as your adjudicator on which side and the best speaker. But first things first, I'd like to congratulate all of you for all of your efforts. I really enjoyed the points that you put forth, and I really enjoyed your takes on this issue, this really pressing issue. However, like elections, there is only one winning house or party, and that winning house is next slide. That winning side is the negative side. Jesse, Darren, and Ken. Congratulations to the three of you. Although again, I'm so proud of all six of you for the interesting discussions and the fruitful debate that you've brought to the table.
Now, we Now we would like to thank the audience watching from YouTube as we are about to end this live. Thank you so much for watching our debate showcase, and we hope to see you soon. For the debaters, Jasmine will take you guys into a breakout room to give you guys feedbacks based on your performance today. So please be patient, and once we're all done, please stay in the Zoom meeting as we're going to have the awarding ceremony in this room at 2:30. Thank you guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anika from Committee 4 of the Student Council. As you all know, today is the awarding ceremony, and I'm sure you all are excited to see who the winners are. But first, before we start, we would like to thank all the participants for joining in on our events and supporting this event as well. Also to the audiences who supported your friends or family. We would also like to thank the mentors for helping us prepare for this event and making sure that we provide the best for all of you. And lastly, the governing committee who have helped us correct all the small mistakes and helping us make this event successful. So without further ado, let's start this awarding ceremony. So first of all, what were the events that we had? On Tuesday, 6th of October, we had trivia, which is general knowledge. On Thursday, 8th of October, we had Family Feud. And on Saturday, 10th of October, which was today, we had the debate showcase, which the motion was whether elections should be postponed during the pandemic. First of all, the winner for trivia. In third place, we have Stephen Molia. Congratulations, you will be receiving a digital copy of your certificate. And in second place, we have Patrick Wijaya. Congratulations, Patrick. You will also be receiving a digital copy of your certificate. And finally, our first place winner of NH Health Week 2020's trivia is Wesley Lawrence. Congratulations, Wesley. Since you're in first place, you'll be receiving the cash prize and a digital copy of your certificate. And the next award will be given to the winning team for Family Feud. So the winning team of NH Health Week's 2020 Family Feud is the Depressed Year 13 students. Congratulations to all of you in the team for winning first place. You all will be receiving the cash prize and a digital copy of your certificate. Next, we have the winners for the debate showcase just now.
So hi
The winning-
everyone. Sorry, Anita. Hi everyone. I'm Jasmine. I was the adjudicator for the debate showcase, and I'm proud to announce that the winning team was our opposition, which is Jessie Felicia Shao, Nathaniel Darren Lim, and Ken Hananto Seto. And I'm very proud to announce our best speaker, which is Jessie Felicia Shao. Congratulations, Jessie, for your hard work. You will be receiving the cash prize of 80,000 as well as a digital certificate. However, to the other debaters, please know that I'm extremely proud of you and your work given the circumstances you were in. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jessie. And for our last event, the talent show winners. The winner of the music or dance primary division is Sherry Shin. Congratulations. You will be receiving a digital copy of your certificate and the cash prize as well. Now let's watch her video submission.
Hello, my name is Sherry Sin from Year 2A. Today I want to play a song by J.B. Duvernoy, OP 176, Etude 17.
Wow, that was a great performance by Sherry Sheen. Thank you for that. And next up, we have our winner for music or dance in the secondary and JC division. And the winner is Patrick Wijaya. Congratulations, Patrick, for winning the music and dance category. You will be receiving a digital copy of your certificate and the cash prize as well. Now let's watch Patrick's video.
Friday night and the lights are low, looking out for a place to go, where to play the right music, getting in the swing. You came to look for a king. Anybody could be that guy. Night is young and the music's high. With a bit of rock music, everything's fine. You're in the mood for a dance. And when you get the chance, you are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17. Dancing queen, feel the beat from the tambourine, oh yeah. You can dance, you can jive, having the time of your life. Oh, see that girl, watch that scene, digging the dancing queen. You're a teaser, you turn them on, leave them burn and then you're gone. Looking out for another, anyone will do. You're in the mood for a dance. And when you get the chance, you are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17. Dancing queen, feel the beat from the tambourine, oh yeah. You can dance, you can jive, having the time of your life. Oh, see that girl, watch that scene, digging the dancing queen. Digging the dancing queen.
Next up for our arts in the primary division. Our first place winner is Jadriana Aleta Sotrisno. Here is a picture of her amazing poster she created. Great job, JD. You will be receiving a digital copy of your certificate and the cash prize as well. And for the last award, we have arts in the secondary and JC division winner. Last but definitely not the least, our winner is Princess Dharma. Congratulations, Princess, and thank you for drawing this amazing picture. Great job. You will be receiving a digital copy of your certificate and the cash prize as well. Congratulations to all the winners for winning first place. Next, we will be showing you guys the money we collected that will be donated to Wahana Visi. Thanks to all your support, we were able to donate 2,460,000 rupiah. Plus, Jessie just told us that she will be donating her prize money to Wahana Visi as well. So, all of Com4 and all of SE is very grateful for that. Thank you, Jessie. Although not all of you won the events, participating in it, having fun with your friends and family, and also supporting and donating to help the community already makes all of you a winner. Sadly, this is the end of the awarding ceremony and the end of NH Health Week. Thank you again to everyone who supported us and participated in the events. Have a great rest of your weekend.